The Ethereum merge just happened, but that's not the end of all Ethereum problems. In fact, layer 2s still have a lot of work to do. Layer 2s have a lot of significance, and one such layer 2 is optimism. In today's video, we'll talk about optimism. We'll analyze it to understand what's great, what's a good sign, what are the risks, and what should you really be doing. We'll talk about all that in today's video. So, what is optimism? Optimism is a layer 2 scaling solution that is trying to make protocols on Ethereum low cost and lightning fast. Right, as simple as that. They're trying to make everything fast, stable, and scalable, while at the same time utilizing the security of the Ethereum network. So they have built out an amazing set of technologies. More than $1 billion have been saved in gas fees. More than 1 billion is there on chain value, and more than 1 million of public goods have been distributed. So, what is the benefit that most people are going to get? Well, imagine this: whatever is there on Ethereum, whatever D apps are running on it, Optimism can make it 10 times faster. They can make it much cost effective, right? Very simple, very cost effective. That is the advantage that Optimism is really giving. Right? So, what is great about it? Well, one is that they are solving a real problem, and the problem is that low speed and high cost of Ethereum. Even with the merge, Ethereum still continues to have a significant cost that, let's say, applications like gaming will not be able to sustain. So, low speed and high cost is something that Optimism is solving for, and it is completely aligned with Ethereum's goals. Right? If you look at a blog post by Vitalik Buterin, I have linked this in the description. He talks about Optimism with great respect. Right? He has spoken about Optimism quite often, and even in the Ethereum roadmap, they are envisioning layer twos as part of as part of the entire roadmap to help scale up solutions, to help ensure that more D apps can be built, the ecosystem grows, and so on. So it is completely aligned with Ethereum's goals. Now, the next thing that makes it really exciting is the fact that this is EVM equivalent. Right? In fact, this is probably one of the reasons why Anderson and Horowitz invested in Optimism over other layer 2 solutions. It's because if something is EVM equivalent, it means that you can create something on Ethereum and you can like easily move that to Optimism without having to do much changes and or much development, right? So the barrier to entry is very low, right? For somebody to move that DApp from Ethereum to Optimism, it's very easy, and this I think is the key highlight for me. Then there's this growing ecosystem, right, which has more than 800 million in total value locked. Right? If you go to their section on their website which talks about the ecosystem, you'll see that there are a number of apps. Right? Hundreds of apps are today using Optimism. The biggest one being Synthetics. Right? I had made a video on Synthetics earlier. We know that they're working in a thousand, something like $1,000 billion, $1,000 trillion kind of a market of derivatives. So something like Synthetics is also using this. There are many other apps that are already using this. If you go to DeFi Llama, you will be able to see that more than $817 million is the total value locked for Optimism. So that's pretty good, even at this time when the whole crypto market has crashed. And if you go down to Synthetics, and you can look at the Synthetics ecosystem itself. So Synthetics is not the only crypto that is using Optimism. There is an entire ecosystem of Synthetics apps that are using Optimism. So that's great, right? You bring one app, and there is a whole set of apps that are being built on top of it, which are also going to be using Optimism, and hence there is a network effect. There are more and more users who will be locked into this ecosystem because of this network effect. Now, what else? There are stable usage metrics. Right? You can go to the section on, there's this link on Tune. I have attached this in the description as well. You can see that transactions per day, it's over 100,000 transactions per day every single day in the last few weeks, even though the market is completely down. Yesterday was 147,000 transactions. So you can see that transactions have consistently remained even though the market has crashed. So this is great news. This means that people are actually using this, right? So what else is great? Well, institutional investors such as Anderson Horowitz, right? This is absolutely important. I keep highlighting this fact that institutional investors, unlike retail investors like you and me have a lot of resources. They can do a lot of due diligence, and because of the fact that they're able to do a lot of due diligence, they invest better. Right? They have more information compared to us. They do a legal or a tech due diligence, things that we might not be able to do. So if an institutional investor is investing, then that's a good sign. Now, why are they investing? They're investing because capacity per block in Ethereum has stabilized around 98% from roughly May of 2020. That means Ethereum network is full. It's fully, that network is completely full, and you need layer 2 solutions to help it scale. Right? So there are a few things that they specifically talk about. I've just highlighted it here. They're first referring to the exceptional team, right? The team which has, which has a background in cryptography research, which has earlier worked in Plasma, and hence they have similar experience, and that makes it, all their learnings make it very relevant for them to be building this. And then it is said that Optimism is an extension of Ethereum. Like I said, it's EVM compatible, hence it's low barrier for entry. Anybody can just move in their dApps very easily, right? And the team itself is something that Anderson Horowitz has really praised, so that is a good sign, right? That's something that I'm looking at. Then there is this new thing called non-token governance. This is something that Vitalik Buterin has also spoken about. There is a problem in governance, that most of the governance is tilted towards whales who hold a lot of cryptos, so they have more voting rights. If let's say you own 10% of all cryptos, you have that much influence, right? Let's say versus somebody who owns like 0.1%. So one person is deciding a lot, and because they're lazy, because they don't have time, that governance might not be as good as it's supposed to be. And there have been talks about having a non-governance kind of a methodology, which Vitalik Buterin has written a blog about as well, and that is something that these guys are experimenting. Right? If you go to the section on if you go to the section on tokenomics and governance on their website, you will see that they have two houses, right? The token house and the citizens house. Each of them are tasked with balancing long-term vision and short-term incentives. Right. So even if you're not a token holder, if you're somebody who's part of the ecosystem, who's a regular user, then you will still be able to contribute, to be able to participate in the governance process. And that is something that is made possible by the Citizens House, where you don't really have to own an Optimism token, Optimism coin as such. So this is a great sign. Then there's the low barrier to entry. If you look at the competitor like Arbitrum, they don't use the Ethereum virtual machine. They have their Arbitrum virtual machine. So there are some changes that a developer has to do. There is some extra effort that they have to put. So compared to competitors, Optimism has a low barrier to entry. And the great team that we just spoke about, that they have a good background from Plasma and so on. But is this all great, and should we all go buy this? Well, not really, because we need to look at the risks. The first risk is that it is, this whole consensus method has a 1 week expensive withdrawal period. Right? So there is a time period that because of the way that this particular consensus mechanism work, you cannot immediately withdraw it. It is a 1 week lag. Now that's not so great. Then there is a tokenomics. Right? There's a huge selling pressure, and the fact that this governance token, this OP token, is not really benefited in any way through, let's say, rewards accrued or something like that. It is just a governance token. Fees or anything like that does not come to token holders. So there will be selling pressure. Right? Let me show you that. If you look at their allocation, and if you look at the supply that is being unlocked, so we are roughly in year one, because they just started a few months ago. So if you see in the next few years, by next year itself, token supply is almost going to double. And by year 2 or by year 3, you will see token supply going to 75 or 3 times from now. Right? Easily 3 times as much as it is today. And by year 4, roughly, it's going to saturate. So that means we are in 2022. So maybe by 2025, 2026 is when this is going to saturate. But the ideal time really to buy for me would be somewhere between, let's say, close to year 2, end of year 1, beginning of year 2. I think that's a decent time to buy, because you're getting in early where the apps are still being built, and relative success of these apps that are being built on top of Optimism. and enough supply has already been unlocked, so circulating supply has also been unlocked. Right now, this is the new strategy that I'm sort of adopting, delaying buying this for another year and a half at least. Then there are other concerns, like one, they lost Uniswap, right? Uniswap went and used Arbitrum because there was a delay in the mainnet launch of Optimism. And not just that, they sent airdrops to wrong wallet addresses. So they have goofed up a little bit in terms of communication, in terms of certain things being done. So this is a bit of a concern, not that much, but definitely a bit of a concern. Now, biggest risk is that Arbitrum is doing 2x the transaction volume at a much lower cost. Right? If you go to this website called Nontoken, right? If you look at the volume, Arbitrum is doing something around 400,000, or something around 400,000 transactions a day, whereas Optimism is nowhere near that. Right? Optimism is doing a stable 100,000, 120,000, 140,000 kind of transactions, but they're not doing as much as Arbitrum. Arbitrum is doing 3 times or 2.5 times as much as what Optimism is doing, and they are doing it at a lower cost. If you look at the cost on Arbitrum, it's 0.01 versus Optimism, it's 0.03. Just taking one example here. And no doubt, because of all these reasons, Arbitrum has like a 51% market share compared to Optimism, which has like a 30% market share. So definitely there are some concerns that though it is EVM compatible, it is so less in terms of barriers to entry, still Arbitrum has overtaken this. Can Optimism catch up? Well, that is something for you to figure out, for us to see as time goes on. Where is it today? Well, today it's at $0.966. Market cap is about 200 million. The diluted market cap is about 3.9 or close to 4 billion. There are indications that this can go up to 9 billion in the next year or so. So that means a 2x of your money if you do invest. We're talking about fully diluted valuation. So at least 2x is something that we are looking at, but we do know that supply is going to increase a lot in the coming days and coming months. Hence, my strategy is slightly different. I'm waiting for another year and a half, tracking Optimism very closely, and then maybe I'll invest a year from now or a year and a half from now, when enough of these coins are already in circulation. What should you do? Well, I think that first, obviously, you should do your own research. Secondly, consider a portfolio of L2 cryptos, right? Not just one. Consider investing in a portfolio. So in this way, you'll hedge your risk. And then participate in airdrops, right? So Optimism and all these are giving out cryptos. Arbitrum has not come out with their token yet, but maybe they will in the future. And when they do, participate in the airdrops. And for you to do that, look at the eligibility criteria on Optimism. Most likely it'll be similar eligibility criteria. So if you're a regular crypto user, then for sure you can participate. And explore dependencies, because it's very important for you to explore dependencies. We saw how synthetics and the whole set of synthetics apps are dependent on this. Any crash over there can result in the crash of this entire ecosystem. Right? So overall, should you invest in Optimism? Well, that's totally up to you. But this is the high level information that I wanted to give you. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it, and welcome to the Wave Crypto Club.